welcome to yet another episode of the World Ayurveda Podcast, where we are bringing fascinating conversations from the world of Ayurveda, speaking to doctors, researchers, entrepreneurs, and other stakeholders from the world of Ayurveda, no matter which part of the globe they reside in. My name is Ritika Patni, and I am the founder of the Art of Health in Singapore. I'm delighted today to welcome our guest who's joining us all the way from Austria, Dr. Picha, who is the chairman of the International Maharishi Ayurveda Foundation. He is also a senior consultant in cardiology from Austria. In 1996, Dr. Picha shifted his focus from a full-time position as the assistant director at the Department of Cardiology of the State Hospital in Graz, Austria, to become a researcher at Maharishi Vedic University in Waldorp, the Netherlands. Welcome, Dr. Picha. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you for inviting me. It's a joy to talk to you. It's a joy to talk to you, really.
Thank you so much, Dr. Picha. We are fortunate to have you with us today. But we are really curious to understand that, having studied modern medicine and also specialized, fields such as cardiology, how did you then discover Ayurveda?
Yes, I was indeed in really high-tech medicine, being responsible in the angiogram lab. That means I was probing a catheter into the coronary arteries and opening blocked arteries, which is a great boon for those who have come that far in their disease to save their lives and so forth. But as a cardiologist studying the cause of the disease, I, of course, very soon discovered that all cardiovascular diseases are kind of caused by risk factors that are manageable through lifestyle. There are like 9 modifiable risk factors that studies have shown, like high blood pressure, smoking, inactivity, physical inactivity, diabetes, and then 9, I don't have to name them, the hypertension and overweight and stress, cholesterol. These are known almost to everyone, and these could be managed by changing your lifestyle. And research shows that about 80 to even 90% of all heart attacks could be avoided by living a healthy life. So I found I'm working actually at the end, 5 minutes after 12 of the disease development, trying to repair something and to save lives, and much more effective and much more fulfilling for the patient and for the doctor would be to prevent all of this. And so I was looking to prevention, and there is some prevention in modern medicine, but I looked to more deeper science, and I soon discovered Ayurveda as one of the, like I would say, the champion of lifestyle medicines. They, through kind of Ayurvedic evaluation of Prakriti and Vikriti, you could kind of, once you have a proper diagnosis or evaluation, you could adopt anything in life to the specific problem. If, whatever he eats, he does, what spices, what kind of behavior, everything, medicine could be adjusted. And I think this was, for me at least, fascinating to go more into prevention. And then I studied in the early 90s to take my first courses in Ayurveda. And so I started to probe into this more and more. And it took a few years when I eventually quit my position there, which was a big surprise because I was really in a good position. I was in the faculty of the Austrian Chamber of Doctors, teaching other doctors in the field of cardiology, giving presentation, be active, be a last opinion doctor, be head of intensive care unit. Was a lot of work and rewarding and nice. But eventually I couldn't continue or didn't want to continue. And so I took the freedom and quit my position and I went to Vlodrop, to the Maharishi Vedic University there, where I met Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who I discovered then even in 1985, structured a world plan for perfect health, where he laid out everything from the field of Ayurveda, what has to be done, how many clinics and colleges, and so I discovered all of this, and since then I'm full-time active and yeah, continuing to even to help to spread Ayurveda, yeah, so this is how I think my personal shift of awareness happened.
That is fantastic, and also so encouraging to know that, as a Western medical doctor, you were open to other systems of healing, and you've embraced, the system of Ayurveda, which, like you said, is the champion for lifestyle, diseases and medicine. But Dr. Pisha, you've of course trained other doctors, maybe specifically in cardiology, and of course now, you also are so actively involved in Ayurvedic education. But how would you really describe Ayurveda to medical doctors who have never heard about this, really ancient 5,000-year-old science?
Yeah, I think it's not easy to explain in 1 or 2 words. I usually take, if someone is really interested, I take a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, and try to explain a little bit that Ayurveda is first of all the oldest system of health that has been systematically recorded in books. They are thousands of years old, but the knowledge is even older than that. I mean, recording in a book doesn't mean that at that time everything has been invented. The knowledge was probably there in the corridor of time, yeah, for much, much longer time. So it's something that we modern scientists understand as evolution. In evolution, anything that harms a being would not prevail. And if a knowledge has persisted over thousands of years, from generation to generation, this is by itself a value, because scientists always ask the first thing, how much evidence can you have? How much evidence is there? And of course, there's evidence. There's now studies on herbs and so many things, but in comparison to the mega studies with 100,000 of multi-center studies, there is some way to go for Ayurveda, but it has this kind of time-tested value, which is a value one has to recognize. And it's a science of life. It's not just giving herbs like in modern medicine. You have acidity in your stomach, you give something that according to Ayurveda herbs in the book says this is reducing acidity. It doesn't work like that. It's much more on a deeper level, that you kind of evaluate the physiology and adjust everything in life, what he's doing. That is something in modern medicine no one has even thought about, that it's possible. And yeah, usually I explain that it translates like Veda knowledge, and it means the knowledge of Ayu, the life, science of life, which tells a lot that it's not just science of herbs or pharmacopoeia or any little thing. Yeah, and it's a prevention-oriented approach, but not only. You can cure, but especially in comparison to modern medicine, the prevention aspect is kind of eye-opening, and in cure is also fascinating to work with less side effects, and you have sometimes side benefits instead of negative side effects. And usually people ask questions, how can one learn? And so one goes individually how to continue to explain, because once you start, you can talk for hours. It's then hard to stop anywhere. But it's a natural system of health that has prevailed over thousands of years, and yeah, that is quite impressive to see. And one can mention sometimes that even thousands of years ago, they seem to have opened the skull of the brain if there was a bleeding, and they have done eye surgery, like so many thousands years ago, where in Europe, they didn't know what to do. They have bloodletting, and I think there was nothing else than putting someone in bed and fasting. There was no idea about medicine. So this is quite fascinating to see how advanced India was at that time, how developed the culture and these are some aspects that I would mention as an introduction. Yeah.
So that's, I think that's a beautiful description. And I think what really struck me in, everything you said is that, Ayurveda, instead of side effects, could actually have side benefits. And that is so true. I think anyone who's really had Ayurvedic treatment knows that not only are you able to treat and cure sometimes, the disease you're suffering from, but often you will see other benefits, to your, health and well-being that you notice, which you didn't even really go to cure, but you just see those side benefits, like you said.
Yes, yes, exactly. And for example, in Ayurveda, let's say if someone has a joint problem, I give just an example, whatever, you evaluate there's some AMA situation, you start to treat the digestion, and the patient may ask, but I have a joint problem, I have bowel movement every day. I said, okay, it doesn't matter, we treat this. And then not only the joint will get better, the skin is more radiant and the tiredness goes away. And there are many, many things. Even the target is not even the symptom of, you don't treat arthritis such as we know in modern medicine. You treat the underlying cause. It's often the digestion, not always, but could be some small mistake. If I've seen this throughout the last 20, 25 years, a little change in whatever you detect as a mistake could make a big difference. And that's really fascinating, yeah.
Absolutely. Dr. Picha, you said, of course, when you discovered Ayurveda and, you were quite fascinated to hear that Ayurveda had such advanced systems of healing incorporated within it, in India many, many years back. So what's your association been with India, and when did you actually first also come to India?
Yeah, interesting. I first from Austria, when I quit my job at the state hospital in Graz, I went to Vlodrop, a very small town in the Netherlands, where Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was residing with many Vaidyas from India, Triguna, late Triguna, Devendra Triguna, and other great Vaidyas I met there. And there was a big kind of like 100 Indians there. So I went almost to India in this small kind of university. And so then I got first contact with Indian thinking and with Indian experts in not only Ayurveda, but also Gandhara Veda, Sthapatya Veda. And so there are so many Vedic disciplines that, actually Maharishi, who taught me Ayurveda first, told me that Ayurveda means everything that brings health to the person, and that includes all the Vedic disciplines. It's yoga, for example. It's unifying, and pranayama and asanas. They are all part of Ayurveda, kind of all the sister disciplines. We don't separate this. We call Mahasya Veda. There's everything that India brought out is actually Ayurveda, the full Veda used for the body. But of course, after 1 or 2 years, then there was a group of scientists, they should go to India, and then Maharishi invited me to join them. And I also started to join a research team together with Dr. Tony Nader. He looked into how the Veda is expressed in the human physiology. He looked into the vibrations and the structure of Vedic literature and how this reflects on the human physiology. And there was some discovery, a book published that time when I went to Vlodrop, so I studied this. And then I was part of a team that presented in India at different universities and publicly and press conferences. So I went all around India. I think in 2-3 weeks, we went to all major cities, starting from Delhi, like one big round around the clock. And so this was my first impression on the huge diversity in India, how it looks like, the climate, and fascinating knowledge, and all these traditional experts of Ayurveda. And they were very interested that someone from the West comes and speaks about Vedic literature and how this relates to human physiology. So this was my first take to India. And then I was a few times more visiting some places where Maharishi was residing in Allahabad and Brahmastan of India, but then we also were in Nepal and Sri Lanka, which also are Vedic countries that use Ayurveda a lot. And but these were short visits, a few times, and but I felt that I'm very closely connected to India because I was like 20 years in Flotrop, and there were like 50 to 100 Indian experts and Vaidyas, and I had to, on daily basis, I was with the Dr. Raju. I remember he was there for a few years. I went to every consultation. He took the pulse. I learned the pulse reading because in Maharishi we take a lot of effort in properly learning how to read the pulse Nadi Vigyan. And so there were great experts like Triguna first, and then Dr. Raju. And so I felt I was almost like in India, you know, this is this way of life. And it was like also like a little bit like not ashram, but a lot of emphasis also on daily meditation for yourself. So the whole atmosphere was very subtle and quiet and peaceful and clear. So this is also what I see in India when you go to remote places and you visit some temples, and great purity of consciousness. And so for me, India is very fascinating.
It is indeed very fascinating, Dr. Picha, and we will discuss more about that. But one question which I'm sure, you know, all our listeners would be keen to understand is, with your background in cardiology, do you think heart disease can be prevented using Ayurveda? And if so, then how? Can you share something based on, you know, your expertise?
Yeah, I'm quite convinced that it could reverse coronary artery disease, because this is there even from modern medicine. If you change a little bit, even if you control the blood pressure, for example, then one has seen in some research, if it's really well controlled, a reversal of clotting or narrowing of coronary arteries. So science knows the potential of reversing coronary artery disease is a possibility. And also for the development, there is some 10% hereditary cause, but mostly it's due to kind of lifestyle modifications that one can prevent. And if someone you can prevent, you can assume you can reverse, and hints of that are there. It has to be more researched, but personally I've seen improvement by change in diet, by some herbs, and even meditation, because all these interact to each other. Stress itself, stress management, is responsible for most of the other risk factors. It's a driving force, because stress propels cholesterol, propels high blood pressure, bad eating habits, smoking, and all this is kind of enforced by stress. So and Ayurveda offers huge possibilities to help. You know, there are so many curcuma and ginger and there are science behind this, why it lowers cholesterol and how it works, you know, in the hepatic and kind of circulation. And so there is a huge variety of things one can do to help. And especially let's say in transcendental meditation, I'm working using that meditation, not excluding others, but there was research just a few years back with heart data where people had coronary artery disease, you know, 3-vessel disease, which is the worst. All the 3 main arteries of the heart are blocked or had bypass surgery. And they put one group of 100 people under optimum modern medicine treatment. They had, you know, all this blood beta blocker, diet change, and physical activity, everything best. And the other group, the same. But they were in addition doing meditation twice a day, transcendental meditation. And they looked at what we call hard data, not just do I feel better, is the electrocardiogram better, but they looked into heart attack, stroke, and death. What is happening with these people after 10 years? And those who did the meditation, transcendental meditation, they had half of the risk to die or have the other events, like 48% risk reduction, which is huge, which is more than any statin, which is the most successful modern drug to lower cholesterol. This is a multi-billion market, and they have some effect, but this is much higher. So this you can see as a clear sign that you can do something in such a severe cases even. They were not like beginning stage of ArtH, they were really high risk, and I think about 30% died of these 200 people after 10 years. And so you saved half of them by just doing twice a day, 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, something for your geist-body coordination, mind-body coordination. So there's definitely great possibilities and tools and approaches that can reverse coronary artery disease.
Fantastic. Dr. Picha, Maharishi group has of course been instrumental in taking Ayurveda to the West. So how has the perception and adoption of Ayurveda in the West changed over the years, from when you first were introduced to Ayurveda and to today?
Yeah, I think a lot has changed. I think my first course in Ayurveda was 92. And that time I was still fully engaged in the hospital. But somehow I was so attracted by it, I started to use it even in the hospital, for sometimes constipation. I gave some trifle here, so many little things that I feel I could do. But that was very strange for all my colleagues. I was kind of exceptional at that time. And even the word Ayurveda, no one had any idea. And when you say, everything starts from Apana Vata, which is the colon, the digestion, it was very strange for people. Nowadays, the microbiome kind of research tells you that the microbiome is almost responsible for everything, for every disease, its connection to the brain, it speaks to the lung microbiome, it interacts with the immune system. We're just about to discover. And this is something that all of a sudden, the thing that you hardly could believe, that most of the diseases start from Apana Vata, becomes like science. And this is with many other things. So just from science, it has changed, and it's therefore easier to speak to modern scientists. If you come up with such theories or statements from Ayurveda, they are now starting to be confirmed. And I often speak about how modern medicine is now discovering Ayurveda as a cutting-edge medicine. This is what is happening day by day, and therefore it's alone easier. But also because I think India taking the efforts and sending out to the world experts and people are intelligent. I think the crowd intelligent, seeing there is a value, and more people know about it. I think Ayurveda in Germany, Austria is almost like a household name. There are few people who have never heard about it. There are maybe, but like 30 years ago, there was even not a faint idea what it is. A little later, they had the idea this is something from the East or from Asia, little scary perhaps, something with meditation or no idea. And now it becomes like, many countries have picked it up. Switzerland have now 2 official professions in Ayurveda. And the experts what they're doing is covered by health insurance. And so it becomes part of daily life and in so many countries in the world. And there is still some kind of majority of modern scientists who are kind of careful and don't see yet the value, but it's definitely much easier now to speak about Ayurveda. And just an example, just 2 or 3 years ago, together with the Institute of Physiology. And even though I'm not working anymore since more than 20 years in the hospital in Graz, we approached the dean of the university and offered them to lecture the students as an elective study in Ayurveda, yoga, and meditation. This is how they called this. And so it's not a mandatory lecture, but usually they would have, a few years ago we have tried and they would have refused. Don't even talk to me about it. This is nonsense and we don't want any strange, just don't come anymore. And now it wasn't even a discussion and they felt, oh yeah, I think the students should know it and just do it. And the thing is that the students, they have to do a thesis, a kind of a diploma work at the end of their medical study, but they have a freedom to choose a topic and they can choose an elective topic also. And many students, they want to do research on Ayurveda now and yoga. And so it shows the young generation is very interested. And it's really, it's not even easier. It's, I said I've asked, but it was the professor of the Institute of Physiology. I've only heard after, and so I don't even have to ask. The people ask me, can you, we have heard you are expert in Ayurveda, can you teach our students? Or like in Slovenia, this is 40 kilometers from here, 45 minutes. There's a private university. They asked me if we can organize a master in health science, including Ayurveda as a kind of health science. And yes, so people are starting to request that. And so time has really changed. And I think this is continuing to happening in a kind of faster and faster way. So I think it has to be, because it works and it's a wonderful approach and it's useful, it's helpful, it gives relief. And it's not expensive in comparison to modern medicine. And there are so many problems we have with financing modern healthcare and side effects. So actually people start to look at something, how to can get out of the health crisis, because we have more and more chronic diseases. We have rising costs that no one can cover anymore. And so there is a desire by health authorities, healthcare providers to go in prevention. And Ayurveda is there really as a champion. I think no other system has that refined, individually tailored approach to a specific problem. So it has definitely become easier. It's absolutely, there's no fear in myself. And if, difficult talks with people who you feel may refuse what you're saying, it has really changed a lot.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Picha, you've of course been spearheading a lot of Maharishi's initiatives where you've integrated Ayurveda, into a system of healthcare and also provided opportunities for education. Can you share with us a little bit more about what opportunities have been created and initiatives have been undertaken within the Maharishi framework to realize this integrated model of healthcare?
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, I was just mentioned already here nearby Graz, we are probably starting next year with a Master in Health Sciences and Ayurveda. So this is, we teach in the Balkan area in English language. And in USA, for example, at the Maharishi International University, since 4 or 5 years, we have, it's maybe one of the few or the only fully accredited Master of Science in Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine in Fairfield in Iowa, and have very strong rising number of students. I think the first class were over 20 people. It was borderline to start because covering the costs, and I think they have now 300-400 students, and the next term this fall 100 more students have inscribed, enrolled. So this is the strongest growing program at that university. It's quite a huge. They have a lot of sustainable living and arts and mathematics and computer science, and is a huge university, and the master in Maharishi Ayurveda and integrative medicine is now the fastest growing program. So this is clearly reflecting also the general rise in interest in Ayurveda. And yes, in 2013, I think we have founded the International Maharishi Ayurveda Foundation. So it's not that old. We felt we have to register somehow a foundation as a platform. This serves trained health professionals that we have trained in Maharishi Ayurveda to be a member and support them with ongoing continuing education, with a newsletter. And we have a Vaidya from India employed who ask questions online. You can ask the Vaidya if you have a patient, feel it's complicated, you don't come along so well. So we have these kind of benefits to them. But one thing this foundation is doing is international Ayurveda congresses. And I think the first we did in the Netherlands, right there where the foundation has been founded in Roermond. Then we went to London, and this was the first time when Honorable Minister Nayak came physically there, inaugurating and speaking there. And so we started to connect with all the Ayurveda experts in Europe and globally and with India. And this always creates new opportunities, teaching opportunities in UK and new collaborations. For example, there was the ex-health minister of Brazil was in London as interested in alternative medicine, and so he appeared there and we talked, and he said he wanted to do the same thing next year in Rio de Janeiro, and this is what happened. And the Brazilian government helped in organizing. Then we had a congress in Rio, and the same year the Brazilian government decided to implement, I think, 25 alternative and complementary approaches as a law in their state system of healthcare, including Ayurveda for the first time. And at that time, I think 27 universities in Brazil and whole of Latin America expressed a wish to have that program. And so we're working on curricula to translate in Portuguese language in Brazil. And in Brazil is huge interest, and also other Latin American countries in Mexico. And interestingly, for example, speaking there in the Latin American area, the Caribbean is also, I think, very interested in this kind of natural approach, especially Ayurveda. And in Curacao, we have the opportunity. There is a University of Latin America, because UMLAC, University Latin America, Maharishi Ayurveda, something. And they have now approved a master program in Maharishi Ayurveda and integrative medicine. So this university, the graduates will be fully MDs according to US kind of laws, but at the same time they study Ayurveda and get a master degree in Maharishi Ayurveda. So this is approved, and I think they will enroll this or next year. And yeah, this is fascinating to see that in USSR, in Caribbean, in Latin America, in Europe, everywhere this is becoming more easy to start teaching. And after Rio, we went to Slovenia for the International Ayurveda Congress in 2018, and in Ljubljana. And there I was approached by President Toplak from the Alma Mater University Europea in Maribor, which I mentioned. This is that university that is now asking for a master program in Ayurveda. So we don't even go there anymore, as I said. We just do the congresses are a great means of networking with others, and you meet people and they ask you, and sometimes something nice and new comes out. And next time we plan to be in Kathmandu in Nepal. And this has to be cancelled. It was scheduled beginning of October, but due to COVID, we will postpone to next year. So these are the activities we are doing. And we're also now we have created what we call Maharishi College of Perfect Health, which will serve as a roof organization for all our Maharishi Ayurveda trained teaching kind of platforms in all countries to give guidelines and to give like accreditation. We wanted to do it together with Ayush. We're in very close collaboration, and Ayush said they will endorse and approve all our training programs that we have sent them so far. So this is a very nice development.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. It was a joy talking to you, and I was very happy to be part of this program. Thank you. Namaste. Jai Guru. Bye.